Over the years, I've been able to go to a really cool ghost town. It's called Cerro Gordo, and it's located in California, just about an hour and 15 minutes south of Bishop. Again, it's in California. It's pretty high up in the mountains. The town is at 8,300 feet. So here's a view of the town is way up in the mountain there. This is from the valley level, which is I think around 4,000 feet. So it's about a 6,000 foot climb over a couple miles of road. And this is a fast forward view of that road itself. Just taking the road up to the ghost town is an experience in itself. It's very steep, it's narrow, you can't get any large truck through there at all. It's just a great experience just to drive on that road. It's beautiful. So this is up to the town. This is a picture from 1915, what the town looked like. It was a big silver producing town. Here's another picture of just what it looked like back in the day. The weather has taken its toll on the town because it gets snow every year, and this is what it looks like now. So the building in front isn't even there. Here's another view of the town. This is prior to 1926. So between 1918 and 1926, the city of LA actually took all the water from this lake and they sucked it dry. So right now there's no water there, and this is kind of a picture of what it looks like. Basically nothing. It actually causes a lot of dust and blowing issues. Here's another view of the town. Back in the day, they had a lot of burros up there to help bring supplies up and down the hill. There's some miners that were working in the mine back in the day. And here's a picture of a bunch of the silver lead bullion. When they refined it up on the hill, they brought it down in that form right there for further refinement in LA. So they brought a lot of money to this town. Here's a view of what the town looks like today. There's a lot of buildings that are missing, but there's a lot of buildings that are there intact, and they're actually in great shape. Those first ones that you see were put up in 1915. Some of the wood ones in the back were late 1800s, and they're still up and being taken care of by the caretaker. This place wouldn't be there without the caretaker. As soon as somebody leaves down that hill, nobody's watching the town, it's going to get ransacked and raided, and it's not going to be there anymore. So it's a really cool town, and that caretaker does a lot to help keep the property safe and to also restore some of the buildings. So again, you can see the dried up lake down there, Owens Lake. So they've rebuilt a lot of this is the hotel that's been redone, all down below, refinished with all the original wood. This is the Bunk House that was built in 1915. It has a kitchen. It has 6 rooms, and they have beds in there, and that's typically where we stay when we visit the town. Up at the Hoist House, this is actually a time lapse that Metabolic Studios did. They're part of the Annenberg Foundation. They did a lot of repairs to the Hoist House. It's a little further ways up the hill from the town. And inside of the Hoist House, there was a boiler. They later took that out to scrap for the war effort. The original compressor is still there. It's the Ingersoll Rand. Really kind of neat thing is it still had the original rubber belt that's still attached to it. Also has the hoist that works through hydraulics, not the electrical motor anymore. They do have the original electrical motor you can see in the background there, and then the resistor banks to control the speed. So the A-frame for the mine is actually built into the Hoist House. This is a picture of it. And this is kind of from the top looking down at the cage. And another look at the cage itself. This is the original cage from the 1800s. So this is a top view of the mine, looking down at it. It looks like a jumbled mess. This is kind of an overview of all the layers on top of each other, all of the levels. And here's a side profile view. It shows the shaft going down to 900 feet, then a drift over to a winze down to 1,100 feet. In 2011, Metabolic Studios, as part of the Annenberg Foundation, hooked up a series of cameras to the original hoist, and they dropped it down the shaft. They wanted to document the condition of the shaft, and they also put cameras on the left and the right to document the condition of the drift levels for at least what they could see. So this is them going from the very top down to the 900. So we started getting our gear set up, got everything rigged on the top. We had a series of ropes that we dropped down, carry down with us, and we'd tie them off at different locations as we descended. So this is the picture of Dan heading down through the top, and it was a very interesting, surreal, scary experience to be hanging over a 900-foot deep shaft with nothing to stop you. Yeah, so this picture right here really tells just part of the story of what it's like. You can see down as far as you can see, but it goes down even further than that. So, first level we got to is 86. A friend of ours hooked up a GoPro to himself and did a walkthrough of that level. So I'm going to let him speak for about 8 minutes here. Sorry the audio is bad, but it'll give you a good experience of what's going on.
Level area. Come back this way. What comes right off of here. There's parts here from when the hoist ran, probably to stop the hoist and lock it in at this level. Old ladder. And head down. This drift goes straight ahead. Goes in a little bit of a collapse. I'll come back to that. There is some electrical cord here, but then off those to the side here, it's a small ladder. It just goes up a little bit, and you're kind of on the drift that hooks back around the other side of the hoist level. So there's Galena around here. I'll head up this way. So I'm about 8 feet above that hoist level, the 86, and that's where we kind of have a little bit of a level here. To the left, it just goes a few feet and it's dead ends. To the right, goes here. This is that little stope area that kind of falls back right behind the hoist. Kind of backfilled some stopes, and you can see there's more drifts coming out of this little stope area. Pretty sure this is backfill for the most part. There is some collapse in this back part of the stope, and here we're looking back. That's the box around the hoist area there. So there's a little bit of a stope right here. Just keep walking across, and then we're back into the drifts. Nice little crack there. This is kind of the smooth wall that we end up walking along a lot, where the vein usually is. Find that a lot. Some timbers. Just heading back. Not my favorite height on the drift. I had to bend over. Here you can see a chunk that had fallen off at one time. And there's that smooth fall on this piece. Just shaved right off from that. Kind of a backfill right here. Stacked rock. Backfilled up into a stope. We'll head on down. Nice shot of the vein here. Obviously we're following it a little bit. And at this point we have a junction. I'm going to go ahead and just go straight for now. Here, you can kind of look back, and here's a little makeshift ladder, and then this is where they went up into a stope up there. And you can kind of see the color in the wall, the vein that they were following. So, continue on. There's a little bit of a stope that they were following. You can see the smooth piece of wall there and the vein. So that's that. And a junction here, freeway, and straight ahead it goes down into a small pit. We dropped the rock, it didn't go very far. A berm to hold it back. Go to the left. There's a small kind of stope here that's dug out. Again, following this vein. There's a ladder right here, it goes nowhere. Just leaning against the wall. Back. On the tin. Small slope there following the vein here. The color. See the vein in the ceiling pretty easily. There's a marker. It says BV. And a 6 on the next line. There's some railroad track here and there, not much. Following the vein again, we get the smooth wall. It's always along the vein. The fault, I guess it would be. I don't know my terminology. A little further. Just a little dugout there, searching to see what's down that way. Prospecting. Pretty good airflow down here. A little bit of a stope up in here. Actually, not quite a ways up that one. Yeah, that's a pretty good sized stope. Goes up quite a ways. A lot of color in there. When I say pretty good air, I meant there's cool air flowing. So there may be a small leak to the surface. This is pretty much to the end here. I get into a collapse here, and above it there's a large stope up in there, and there's really good airflow coming from there. So something gets to the surface through here. Pretty confident of that, for the amount of airflow coming through it. And then these timbers, there's some old chunks in here. You can see even on the roof here some of the old just round logs they were using. I mean, if this is the 86 level, this is the early on. You can see some of the small railroad spikes in the timber there they'd used from the floor. And then basically from here is a complete
The next level
collapse.
we descended to was the 400 level. It goes from 86 past the 200. That's been blocked off for some reason during the mining era, and headed down to the 400.
Yeah, as you swing down, I can go grab it if you want. Yeah, I'll haul it in. Hold on. Let me get my device on.
I did the same thing right there, Travis.
I think I should left about 2 more feet of slack on that rope.
How was it?
Good. Awesome.
One. Okay.
Yeah, handle this one over a little bit.
Okay, I can get it now. Firmly attached.
Okay.
Got her? Might need her. Yep. Okay. All right. Go.
So tell us about your experience. First 400 feet, what do you think?
That was good. Had a nice clean rappel. Pretty much free hanging. I just fingered off the sides a little bit with my feet.
So you agree that like not going through that squeeze was the way to go, yeah?
Oh, totally. Yeah, going around that was nice. That was way nice.
Yeah, that was nice.
And I think, you know, you can either jug over that or just climb them.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed when we got to the 400 level is that previously, here's a picture from 2013, there was this board in the front where you could put tools and things, maybe put papers up on there, count ore cart loads. It was sitting up before. When we got there in 2018, this board had completely fallen over with the support wood and everything. So, even between 2013 and 2018, things are still falling apart in this mine. It's pretty unfortunate. So during our exploration of the 400 level, we came upon a winch in this place. It was about 20 feet up for some reason all by itself. And it's a steam-powered winch, and it had a date of 1887 on it. So it's a two-piston hoist, and it had an emergency brake, and I think probably a speed regulator on it. But this is a pretty neat find in this 400 level.
So here's an example of what water can do to timbers over time. These looks like some good timbers, right? Big and thick. Have a little bit of water in them though. A lot of time. This is what happens. Right into it. Big, but the strength of toothpicks.
So Dan found a manway. It went from the 400 down to the 550, so he decided to take it. These are some of the pictures that he took down there. He headed down that ladder, some other ladders. I made it down 150 feet to this is the 550 level is. That's kind of the picture where he came down from. He found a old wheelbarrow, and at one point he made it to a collapse. Well, coincidentally, we were at the same collapse on the other side because John and I went down the shaft to get to the 550 level. So we were able to vaguely talk with each other through our radios through this collapse right here. Dan also found a newspaper from, I believe that says 1939 on it. It's a pretty neat find. The next stop was at the 550 level. We found one part that was partially backfilled for some reason. It was very unique because this was the only place in the mine that we found that was backfilled like that. Found a couple dynamite boxes and old maybe coffee mugs, held together with wire. These are some core holders. They hold cores from the mountain when they were researching what was in there. And this is just a picture of the shaft station at the 550. So the 700 is the next level we made it to. This is the level that has the pump and the supposed water in it. So we took lunch at this point and kind of goofed around a little bit.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Boxy, what do you think about that MRE and that applesauce?
Tastes like plastic. But it's enhanced with
Plastic.
maltodextrin for male performance, which I need down here real bad. You just want to get video of me sucking on the tip, don't you?
I do. I'm going to make it a GIF or a GIF. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to wait until your card's full.
So we're at the, I guess you can maybe call it a little cistern at the 700 level, Cerro Gordo. This is where the town, after the big boom and when the caretakers kind of took over and it became a ghost town, that they got their water from. There's an original old pump here, a 5 horsepower pump that I'll show you later. But this is ultimately where they get their water from. I'm not sure how this came about or how they figured this out, but the water comes in here somewhere and it doesn't get any higher. So nobody has sucked water out of here in 10, 15 years, but it remains at this same level, which is pretty interesting. And then they have a kind of a thing down in here, I guess probably to keep rocks and stuff out of the suction hose, which is that black one right there. And it pipes to the pump, maybe 300 feet down through here. It's since collapsed in one spot, so it may be broken in there as well. But from what we can physically see so far with the pipe, it seems to be intact.
Fine, right?
Walk the plank.
Yeah, this couldn't possibly be a big producer.
And I wouldn't think it would be. What's interesting is it's extremely soft at the bottom. I mean, it's probably from sediment,
Yeah.
but it could be leaching in from the bottom up into it. 'Cause there's nothing on the walls.
Like, if this produced a lot of water, wouldn't there be, like, flooding marks everywhere? It doesn't look like it floods here.
Right. I know. It doesn't get any higher than that for some crazy
Why would
reason.
it do that? Is the rock porous above that? Does it have a siphon we don't see?
But where would it siphon to? The shaft's
We need to
dry.
make one.
The shaft is dry, so where would it go? So we're at the 700 level. This is the level that has the cistern and the pump that's been providing water for the town for a number of years, but between 10 and 15 years ago it went bad. So we're down investigating it. And here's the pump.
Is that how you put the rope to heat anything?
The new one is the green pump. The old original pump, which we didn't expect to see. We didn't think that there was an original pump that they used during the mining, but it's right here. It's a 3-piston pump with an electric 240-volt, 5-horsepower motor. So this is something new that we learned. We had no idea that they used this water for their mining operations back in the day. We thought it was just put in after. So this is the pump right here. It was allegedly bad, but with our troubleshooting, we actually think it's good. We bypassed an old float switch that's in the pool of water just to eliminate that as an issue. But there's still some head pressure in it, and we believe it's going to work. So we're just going to check the electricity going up to make sure there's continuity in all the cables, nothing's broken. But other than that, I think you can fire this thing right up.
Okay, here I am at the bottom of the shaft at the 900 level. Pretty cool sign right here. Bell sign. Found some more carabiners there. I'll add that to my pile of other pieces of gear. A little bit of rotted wood and some collapse right here at the beginning. There looks to be a old skip, like a maybe a skip bucket. We have a drift going that way, and we have drift going that way, and a sign marking the way out as being down this drift, but I highly doubt that. Okay, I'm back at the Ferry Intersection. That little collapse I was looking at, that dead-ended with more collapse right around the corner. So I'm going back down the drift, back to the bottom of the shaft. Quite a bit of old miners graffiti on this wall right here. Coming up to. Quite a bit. So here we are. Now we're just getting into extensive amounts of writing on the walls here. Dates 1931. I've seen in the 20s. A lot of drawings too. 1929. A lot of names. There's a 1889. Looks like a, I don't know, a Chinese symbol or something like that. And then I'll be back out here in the main shaft station here. Badly rotted. All the timbers are pretty much just crushed. If you step on them, they just crush into powder.
This is
And
an
there's
original
the
picture from
station
miners
going up.
at the 900-foot level back in 1905. So you can see how it looked then, and here's kind of a blend of exactly how it looks now. Everything's wet and unfortunately just kind of falling apart, but still intact. It's pretty neat to get those pictures. You don't always have an opportunity to be able to get pictures from back then and compare them to now and be able to see them that way. So it's pretty neat. Back in 2013, there was a group that went down to the 86 level and the 400 level that I was a part of, and one of the gentlemen was using a non-locking carabiner to hold his backpack onto himself. So as he was squeezing through some of these places in the shaft, his carabiner came off and his backpack dropped to the bottom of the shaft, and it was essentially never seen again until now. So at the 900-foot level and partially a ways down the 550 level, we were able to recover most of the stuff in his backpack. So we're going to hold it for ransom, I think.
Norman?
We good?
So, Kurt, does this backpack look familiar to you?
Found your carabiner.
With what kind of carabiner is that?
Chenard.
It's a Chenard what? Non-locking
I'm gonna have to.
carabiner.
We're gonna have to negotiate a deal to get your Chenard beaner.
Yeah,
Show
Yeah.
up the Cliff Bar.
and his backpack. We
Yeah.
have proof that this is yours. We
You
got
know
the
what?
Cliff
There's
Bar.
your backpack. It's
Bring
all
that over
blown
here.
open.
We're gonna crack that open right now.
It's already cracked
Oh, it's
open.
already. Is that like a rat?
No.
Got it. We should probably relay this thing because there's a lot of rope stretch.
Dude, it smells like alcohol. I'm not.
Is that moldy? That might be mold.
Oh,
dude.
that looks nasty.
That might be
That's mold.
You were about to eat that.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah,
I mean, a free Cliff Bar, that's like $2.35,
don't
right?
eat that.
Uranium 235?
Wow,
237?
that smells pretty rank.
It probably smells like mold. So alcohol isn't mold, just so you know.
It smells like alcohol. Smell it. It's fermenting.
I don't want to smell it. It's mold.
fermenting, dude.
Oh,
So at this time, it was
Those
about
butts won't
9
butt
o'clock
you.
at night. We had been underground for about 12, 13 hours. We don't have a whole lot of video of coming out just because it was pretty tough. We were tired, and it was extremely dusty and tight in there. The video wouldn't have come out very good anyway. It took us about 2.5 hours to make it out with all four of us. And John, our awesome rigger, was able to tie all of our ropes that we use, all the rope sections that we use to come down together. So once we got to the top, we were able to pull just about 1,000 feet out of the mine. And so as Travis there, you see in the picture, is pulling the rope up with a progress capture, I was stuffing them in the rope bags. Here's kind of a funny picture of us. This was after midnight. It took us a number of hours to get the rope pulled up and our gear back in the truck and back to camp. But I just thought it was kind of a funny picture to show how exhausted we were. So the next morning, we got up and we shared some of the news about the pump with the caretaker, and we troubleshooted everything, and we were pretty confident that it was going to work. So we went up to the Hoist House and with an amp meter, and we were going to go basically see if the pump was going to start. Since everything looked good down below and all the wiring looked good up the shaft, we figured that this thing had to work. So here's us giving it a try.
We're gonna check the current draw going down to the pump. I've never used the digital one of these before. I guess it's auto ranging amps. So here we go. 3.6 amps.
It's running.
It's running.
So what this means is that the pump that they thought was bad actually wasn't bad at all. There was two problems that we found. One problem was that the float switch was probably bad, so that was preventing the motor from turning on. We bypassed that temporarily. And the other problem is it's kind of a bigger problem, but it's cracks in the pipe on the way up. So there's 700 feet of steel conduit that's running up the side of the shaft. And when things move and shift over times, those fittings can crack. Another reason that we think some of the fittings are cracked is from freezing. So it's extremely cold in there. And if the pump stopped working and that water's stationary, it's going to freeze pretty quick in those temperatures. And then that'll expand and bust the fittings. Lastly, we found a few valves that had been broken due to falling rocks. The rocks just hit the valve perfectly and just broke it right off. So we were able to get the pump running, but unfortunately the water would just leak out the pipe on the way up. So that's a further problem that needs to be repaired at some point if the town wants to get its water back. But the pump does work and everything does work down below. So that was something that we did not expect. However, it was very positive for the town. So we took a map and highlighted the areas that we think we're able to access. It's a little unfortunate that we weren't able to see more of this mine. but it's well over 100 years old, and gravity never takes a break. We really wanted to see the two chimneys that are showing there on the map. That's where they got some of their high-grade ore from. But for whatever reason, it was just bad ground, and every time we got close to that area, there was a collapse, so we weren't able to see them. But that's what we were able to see of the mine. It was a great experience, and we're glad to see that the pump actually worked and identified the other areas that need to be fixed in order for this town to get water again. So it was a great trip overall, and everybody did a great job.